third one. We're just being blessed all over the place.
I know. Look at all these cardinals. Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Jen, and welcome to my channel. That's my cat, Sugar, and this is my friend, Nichole.
Hi.
So I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and if you want to know anything about my channel or any of the videos I've done in the past or any of the organizations that I'm involved with, please look in my About section down below. So this is my friend, Nichole.
Hi.
It seems like every animal I own is bum rushing the kitchen to be involved today, so I apologize. Please bear with us. For Nichole, I've known Nichole since at least 2017-18. So I was incarcerated on my last conviction when I met Nichole. She came into the Delaware County Jail where I was an inmate due to my drug sales.
I forgot about that.
And that's how we met. And I remember when she came in. So when we come in, we have to go into closed custody. Back then, it was like 3 to 5 days to be classified. And I remember she was super bubbly, and I was like, "What is this bubbly ass chick doing in here?" And I remember her arm was all bandaged up. So why don't we start from there?
Oh boy. What got me in jail that day was me and my boyfriend had a fight, and it got pretty physical. And he had called the cops and said I stabbed him. He had like a little scratch on him. But I was pretty intoxicated and probably on many other things that night. And I tend to overreact. I don't keep my peace. So he had me arrested for a felony stabbing.
I was like, oh my God. And I know who he is. So I was like, I remember when you told me all this, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, right?
Well, but the cops took me in and I had a black eye. And I was confused, like this guy's attacking me and I'm getting arrested for a scratch.
Right.
So, and I was held in solitaire for about 6 days.
Yeah.
And they let me out, and the first thing I did was go to a meeting just to get off the block.
Yeah. So the Delaware County Jail tends to be very extreme because it's a maxi-max jail because it holds fed inmates as well too. And jails are always more extreme because nobody's classified yet. So everybody could be in there. You have everybody, all walks of life. You can have someone who jaywalked and you can have someone who murdered 12 people, so it has to be safe for all. So how old are you?
I'm 46.
Okay. And where were you born?
I was born in Stamford, New York. Yeah, right in Delaware County. Now they don't have a birthing center, but back then they did.
So how old were you what was your childhood like? Let's go from there.
I lived a pretty middle-class childhood, but both my parents were addicts and alcoholics. I'm an only child, included in a lot of their parties that they had. It seemed very glamorous. When they had company over, I was encouraged to socialize with the people that they had over. My father he started selling weed and cocaine. And I remember the first time I found the cocaine, I was like, you guys are going to die. And I was about, 11, 12. My uncle had come to stay with us and they had left it on the table. And I was like, what is this? And, at that time, at that age, I thought drugs are going to kill you. But they made it seem so glamorous. They really did. They had it together. Things really didn't fall apart until at the age of 12, my uncle started touching me. And I had told my parents about it. And I think they were so messed up in themselves that they really didn't understand what I was saying at the time. And then at the age of 14, their disease had progressed to the point where my mother left my dad. I sat around with my dad as he pretty much drank himself, into oblivion every night over my mother. And one day I came home from school and they were gone. They were just both gone.
Really?
Yeah. I had a boyfriend. That's my daughter's father. And today my mom says, well, I knew you were in good hands. Now, he didn't use. And he had dropped out of school to get a job to take care of his parents. And I was uncontrollable 14, no rules, nobody to, to.
Where did your parents go?
My mother took off and stayed with various people. After my father waited for a little while, she said that she was going to come home, just let her go through whatever she needs to go through. And he got tired of waiting. So he hooked up with a woman and moved to Kingston.
Kingston is another town locally, sort of, ish, if you will. Yeah, I didn't know that part. Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's like the beginning of everything because it started the abandonment.
How old were you when you got pregnant with your daughter?
17.
Oh, so you still had a good chunk that you went from the time that happened to the time that you got pregnant.
Oh, yeah. And, I partied every night, got introduced to cocaine at 16.
Was that the first drug you did?
No.
What was the first drug that you did?
When my uncle was living with us, I started smoking marijuana and drinking. And that I felt like I could be closer to my parents. For Christmas, I would get a bowl in my stocking. And yeah, when I partied with my parents, I felt closer to them.
Right.
As I got older.
Yeah, like you fit in. Like.
Yeah. And again, I thought it was cool.
Right. Right. So, okay. You stayed with your boyfriend and let's fast forward to when you got pregnant with Patience.
Yeah.
So you got pregnant with her at 17. Were you in school? Were you out of school?
I was out of school at that point. I had gone to Delhi College. And again, self will run wild. I didn't make many classes. And there was one night when I got led into a room from one of my friends there, and a guy had raped me. And I kind of had a mental breakdown, and I left college. And I got pregnant with my daughter soon after that. And I broke up with her father over like a bipolar moment where I was just overly excited. And my friends were like, oh, you'll go back to him. And out of spite, I didn't. Yeah.
So speaking of bipolar, when did you receive your first mental health diagnosis?
I went to rehab when I was 19, and I got actually diagnosed with borderline personality. That was my first diagnosis. I didn't get diagnosed with bipolar until like 5 years ago. Okay. Yeah, my therapist today, she said, you're definitely bipolar.
Right.
And there's no way that you could pretty much recover without addressing that issue. Yep.
So, okay. So I feel like a lot of times we don't make a direct correlation between mental health disorders and substance use disorder. And I have literally never met somebody with substance use disorder that did not suffer from some sort of mental health, whether it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, whatever. Like I know for myself, I'm a high functioning anxiety, ADD, to the fullest, OCD, like all the acronyms, I collect them within me 100%. I think, believe it or not, that's what makes me able to take on so many projects at one time because of the ADD and the anxiety and all that. Like it makes me a really good multitasker. Sometimes I do it very poorly, but most times I'm pretty on point with it. And I think that that's such a strong connection, and we need to speak about that more, and we need people to realize that more, because you're not just doing, well, 50% is we're just doing drugs because we want to do drugs because of the choices that we've made or the pain and trauma we're trying to not think about and not deal with. But the other part is because we're self-medicating. And it in a sense, it's all self-medicating because we're self-medicating from the trauma. Like I self-medicated because of my childhood trauma. The things that I never really wanted to talk about or deal with. So, okay. So at 17, you get raped, then you get pregnant with your daughter, and then you break up with your daughter's father. And then you go...
Actually, I just traveled around to different close by towns or cities. I moved to Kingston, and that's a little more city-like than where I'm from, and got involved with the wrong people, started smoking a lot of crack.
Mm-hmm.
I had my daughter.
Smoking crack. Patience is with you. How old is Patience?
Patience was about, I don't know, 2 years old.
Okay.
2 years old, yeah. And, I remember I had a job because I'm kind of a high functioning addict to a certain degree.
You really are.
I could hide it. I've had some professional jobs, and I would do so well to a certain point, and until it would just wear me down, putting up this facade, trying to, be the perfect parent, be the perfect worker. And
Exhausting.
It is exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Because I would stay up all night and go to work the next morning and look like nothing. I didn't do anything. But I realized that my life was unmanageable. My father was in recovery at the time. So he kept saying, Nichole, you got to go to rehab. You got to do this. So I ended up going to rehab, and they recommended that I go into a halfway house. So I went up to Saratoga Springs into a halfway house.
It's beautiful there.
It is. Everybody was like, oh, you're so young. If you get it now, you can avoid so many years of pain. And I really wanted it, but I had other addictions. I thrived for attention. I became very promiscuous. And I remember my boyfriend, he ended up relapsing. And of course, I had to show better than that. I had like $800 in the bank, took it all out. And after I did that, I tried killing myself and ended up in another rehab. This was a MICA unit. But they really didn't address anything really. It was just...
So I feel like back then people just used specific names and titles for more funding for their program, but they really didn't understand the severity of it or what it really meant, unfortunately. And I think if we would have had the education and the, I don't know how else to say this, but the heart that we have now as far as the profession, I think a lot of people would have had different lives for the last 10 years. Now I feel like people, and don't get me wrong, it's not everybody, but now I feel like you have people in this profession, like myself, who have their whole heart in it because it's so personal to them. And I hope that this is making people more apt and more able to recover and recover better and sooner and making their futures better. Back then it was still so taboo to even say the word MICA, mental health addiction. Oh my God. But now I feel like we're getting to a better place professionally to be able to actually help people instead of just saying we are.
Definitely.
So let's fast forward. So you had an attempt and you ended up in a MICA program. And how did you complete that program?
I left.
Okay.
I just I felt like they were over medicating me. I was very spontaneous, very impulsive.
Hindsight looking back, that probably all stemmed from your undiagnosed mental health disorders.
Oh, definitely.
Like if that MICA program would have actually done what they were supposed to, they might have diagnosed that and been like, oh, so you have bipolar disorder and this is probably why you're acting or reacting the way you are. And then potentially it could have saved you a lot of heartache. But,
right.
A late diagnosis is better than never. So, definitely. Okay. So you left and where did you go?
I ran off with a guy that was in the program and ended up homeless in Albany for a little while until...
and where was Patience?
Patience was with her father at that time.
Okay.
When I went into rehab and into the halfway house, she ended up going... Her father had temporary custody since I was getting better. And really, my whole life has been hooking up with one guy. Every relationship was abusive, mentally, physically, sexually. I had such low self-esteem, and I thought I deserved that at the time. I really did. And I thought, oh, this person loves me. I never felt attractive or lovable or wanted. So I'd attach myself to these destructive, nasty relationships that just kept kicking me down and kicking me. I would feel worse about myself, and then I would use more over that.
I think I especially as a woman, like I feel that like in my toes, right? And I feel like we get stuck in these ruts where we feel like a significant other is going to level us out, normalize us, make us better, make us be better, when in all sincerity, it's us that make them better. And I feel like I can relate to that very much so. Even in the beginning relationship with my husband, I felt like he's going to fix things. He's going to make things better. He's going to make me more grounded and more stable. When in all honesty, it was always me, right? But I just didn't have the ability to see that because I was too sick to see I really literally had the power all along.
Right.
And I think your journey takes you on a path very similar, more extreme in some cases, less extreme in others. And, you know, even when you and I first started working together, oh God, what, 3 years ago now?
About that, yeah.
I remember you were so, oh Lord, I wanted to shake you and hug you all at the same time because you knew you're so intelligent and you're so intuitive and you know what you need to do. You do, like inherently you know what you need to do. It's amazing. And you've always been such a joy to work with because you know, it's never a fight. It's always with you though. It's always been about building you up till you believe what you know.
Exactly.
And, you know, okay, so let's, before we lose track completely. So you're homeless in Albany with a gentleman who you probably didn't need in your life, but, you know, they were stepping stones.
It was short-lived.
So what happens then? Albany
I came back to my hometown with my daughter, where my daughter is. And I actually stayed clean for a couple of years. I got a job, got my own place, was going to meetings all the time. I stayed clean. Again, I was so young that I thought that I was more mature. I could dabble a little bit here and there. You know, I never went out to the bars, so now I can go out to the bars and meet people. That loneliness really drove me to drink and do drugs because all of a sudden there's people around me. There's people just like me, you know, and it's fun to begin with. And, you know, some of the people that I hung out with, they weren't addicts or alcoholics. They could, you know, just do it once in a while, and I would go overboard. Every time.
You know, I love, you know, it's funny you say that because like I love those memes on Facebook that they say like we are not the same. You party for the weekend, I party till I'm homeless. And it's the truth. Like, partying becomes my career. Like there's no, let me rip a couple lines of coke. Like it's all or nothing, balls to the wall. We're gonna get this and get all of it, or we're not gonna get it at all. And I have to stay on the side of not at all because I don't know how to not, you know?
Right.
And that's the thing, like you go out with these people. Oh, sorry about that. Let me break my watch. You go out with these people, right? And they are social users. And as a younger person, still childlike-ish, you see these people and you think, oh, I can do this too because I can be like them. I'm here with them, right? I get up and I go to work. I took a shower today. There's groceries in my, you know, refrigerator. I can be a social user too. I can just go out to the bar because these were the lies I told myself too. And I would go out to the bar and then they'd whip out the cocaine and I'd be like, let's get it. Whose couch am I staying on for the next week? You know? And then it proceeds from there. And that's why it's so important for people who are highly addicted and just who get swallowed up by their addiction to really keep that in the forefront of their mind. Like now, decades later, you know, but it was like, God, why do we have to learn the hard way? Why do we have to try 75 times to see if it's going to be different any other time? Because it never fucking is.
Well, the substitution, I would, you know, try to do Xanax because that was legal and I would get prescribed it.
Right. And justify in your mind, this is okay because this is how it's coming when it's a crock of shit. We are just looking for a way to skirt the system as always.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so now you're back home playing soberish mom, doing the thing, and trying to sometimes
Right.
use.
Oh, yeah. And that only lasts for so long. You know, I could do a little bit here, a little bit there until it turns into every day. And that had brought me, you know, a couple times shacking up with the wrong people because I couldn't maintain a household, couldn't pay the bills because everything was going towards my addiction.
Correct.
And again, it got to the point where I had the flood Irene came around, and I had my daughter, and in between that, I had a son with a man who was very abusive.
Max.
Yeah, Max.
So how old was Patience when you had Max?
16.
Okay. And Max is now?
11.
Okay. So you had Max, and what was happening?
Oh boy, I was deep in my addiction at that time. And
what would you say your drug of choice was at that time?
At that time, it was cocaine and crack. Yep. Some pills here and there, but not a big deal. And his father is just, he was a very controlling, abusive person. And I had in my mind that I had to run away from him. So in the middle of the night, I took my son and I ran away with him. And actually my best friend told on me. Yeah. And they had emergency court papers saying that they needed to remove my son from me. So he got removed temporarily, but I went through the court system, did everything I needed to do. Even through my addiction, I believed I was taking care of my son, that I was doing the right thing for him. But the impulsive and the using, I just wasn't stable mentally, physically, emotionally.
Well,
I was all over the place.
How could you be?
Yeah.
So, okay, so you get Max back. How old is Max around this time?
About 4.
Okay, so after that, what happened?
Oh boy. I ended up homeless in the shelter, in the county shelter here. I continued to use, but tried to get around it because they gave you urine tests in order to be in the shelter. So I would try to like count the days and figure out like when they last tested me. And another girl in the homeless shelter I actually knew from before. And I started using heroin.
Was that when heroin became, is that like when it started to become your drug of choice?
It was probably a year before that. But at that time I was just sniffing.
What year do you think this was?
Oh boy. I'm going to say 7 years ago.
Okay. So 8, 9, you're at the shelter, you're using, there's a chick there, Is Max with you?
No, Max is with his father at this point in time.
Okay.
Until I got on my feet again. Because that was the purpose of being there. Right. I wanted to manage my addiction, not really quit.
Right, of course.
Just manage it.
Right.
And
sounds about right.
The girl that was staying in the shelter with me, who was a good friend of mine, she ended up overdosing. And, I felt almost like it was my fault because I started using. And she would ask me, can you get me this?
Did she survive?
No. 6 months clean, and it was that one shot that just put her out. That keeps it real for me because I know after being clean for so long, especially what's on the streets now, that, if I were to, the chance of overdosing and dying goes up. So I got out of there. And again, I got a job, got an apartment. Max is with me 50% of the time. Me and his father agreed 50-50 custody.
And it's still like that?
It's still like that, yes. And
now, how did you meet your present ex? Because I don't really want to say his name because I really don't like him.
I knew him when I was younger.
Okay.
He used to be my dealer, my coke dealer. And I would, go over to cop and I'd stay 2, 3, 4 days.
See you next month.
And so he was actually in recovery when we when we came back together. And I was going to meetings and see him in meetings, and I was lonely. Mm-hmm. And I had known him. So it wasn't like I was being promiscuous. I was going with somebody that I knew. And it was soon after that that I relapsed really bad. Really bad.
So let's see. I know this gentleman, and I don't care for him. Just because I know what he portrays, and I know who he really is, and what he portrays is not who he really is. No, it really is never. And like I said in the beginning, Nichole and I met when he put her in jail for trying to stab him, even though she was defending herself, and the proof was literally on her face. So I have some
personal
issues with him, we'll say. So I won't even give him the credit of saying his name on this film, because I just don't care for him and all the bullshit he's put you through, and how sick he has kept you. And if you love someone, you don't keep them sick like that. So that's my own bullshit with him. Anyway, so you meet said individual, and y'all start partying together.
Well, and it wasn't like that, because at that time, my drug of choice had become heroin, and eventually fentanyl, because there was no more heroin around. And he relapsed because he's an alcoholic. And when I moved in with him, I was like, what would be a great idea is if we could start dealing coke, because I still like to party and smoke crack and do all that. And I knew somebody, so he became a dealer again. In the meantime, he knew that I was using opiates. And at that time I became an IV user, and he would use that against me, because he was okay doing, the coke, crack, drinking, that was fine. But because, the IV fentanyl, he used that against me, but encouraged it at the same time, which
literally set you up.
Yes.
But that's for another moment when we get there. Anyway, so he would encourage your drug use, but use it against you all at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay. So moving forward, the situation happens where you end up in jail. Somebody's coming to say hello.
Oh yeah.
You go to jail. We meet. You end up getting released because it really was such a bullshit charge.
Exactly.
It really was. It really, really was. So you get released. You go home, and
he ended up. He has no license, and he ended up getting caught drinking and driving. So he goes to jail.
Now, during this time of all of this happening, I come home from my prison sentence, and I start my career as a recovery coach, and I start working for a local agency. One day, I get called out of my office that there's a young lady that would like to potentially work with a female peer. So I'm like, okay. So I come out, and it is Nichole. Nichole and I start working together, and during this time that her and I start working together, said individual ends up going to jail for a year.
About 8 months.
Yeah, so he got sentenced to a year, and he did 8 months. Now, it was literally, he got sentenced and went to jail, and I literally watched her be super upset about it the first few weeks, and then turn into, I'm going to hold him down, I'm going to take care of everything, got a job, started working at this really cool hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Everything started going great, and then the car broke.
Oh, boy, we're going to go here.
Yes, and then the car broke. And he calls home one night, and she says, the fucking car is broke. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Da, 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 da. He says to her, go in the bedroom, lift up this, move this around, da, 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 da. There's like 15 grand in there.
17,000.
Okay, 17,000 off. It's been a while.
Oh, boy.
So she's like, okay. But he goes, but don't touch any of it.
Yeah.
Don't use any of it except for the car part that needs to be fixed.
Well, what would any addict do?
Okay, thank you, Jesus, for that gift. Yes. I have been rewarded for my good deeds. That's what any addict would do.
Yeah.
And I didn't see Nichole for probably a month or so. And then I saw Nichole, and she came in, and it was a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
And she was very emotional and very scared, very honest, always very honest.
I thought he was going to kill me.
Yeah,
I really did.
She came in and she was like, this is what happened. She told me the entire story. You know, he also left needles in the house just in case she needed them. Like, for what? Why would you? What was the point of that?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I really can't stand him. So she went from being sober, getting her shit together, feeling good, redecorating the house, working, whole 9 yards, holding him down. And it was like he knew she was going to do well without him. So he set her up to fail. And he just used the car as an opportune moment to be like, let's fuck shit up. Even though I'm not here, let's get it fucked up. And I remember it was right around the time of COVID too. So
I lost my job because of COVID. I had gone through all that money within like 4 months, I think. So the money was gone.
And I remember you lying to him and telling him, oh, I only use this amount. And he was like, all right, we'll deal with it. When really it was all of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, when's he coming home? Do you need to come stay with me?
Oh yeah.
Like, it was bad. I thought he was going to kill her. Or did. I thought for sure, I didn't think he'd have balls enough to go as far as to kill you, but I thought he was going to whoop your ass.
Oh, so did I. It was a lot of money.
So, what happened when he came home?
So when he came home, he used that against me. Like, constantly said, and that I owed him. I owed him that money that I had spent. So anything that I got from unemployment, any income that was coming into the house, I just handed over to him. And then it got to a point where I was using really heavy at that point in time too, because I got involved with different people. I had one gentleman that was giving me, I don't know, 100 of those fake fentanyl press pills, and he'd give me those like every other day. Dang. So I added it up. It was like $3,000 worth a week that he was giving me. And Dale allowed me to get those as long as I would give him some to sell. Sorry, I said his name.
You can say whatever you want. You can say it. I'm just not saying it.
Yeah. So as long as I was supplying him with money per se, then it was okay for me to use.
Right. Of course, because you were helping him, so it was okay because he was benefiting in the end. So let me think. Okay. So during this time, I was in the town that she stays in. I was taking somebody to go to the Suboxone doctor, and I saw her. So I literally turned around and pulled over, and I was scared for her, and I tried to get her to get in the car with me, and she wouldn't. She was like, no, I'm fine. She was walking with sweatpants pulled up to her knees, no socks and shoes on, carrying a bag. It was summertime, so it was okay. It wasn't like it was the middle of the winter, you know, so I wasn't, and I could tell she was just in a bad place. And I cried when I pulled away. I did, because I could relate so much, and I know how hard it is when you see someone that you truly love and care about, but your pride is still so strong that you don't want to give in. And I respected that. I tried to give her money. And you know what she said to me? And I will never forget this my entire life. She goes, no. And I said, please, it's $20. Just go get something to eat, cigarettes, something. She goes, no, because I'm going to get high with it. And I'll never take your money and go get high with it. Yeah. And I know if you give me money, that's what I'm going to do. And like that resonated with me, and that stayed with me, because that showed she still had morals and still was this decent human being, that she knew how hard at the time I was working like a slave to pay for everything and do everything that I was doing. And she wouldn't take that stinking 20 fucking bucks from me and go get high with, right? And I was like, okay. And I remember like later on that day worrying so much about her. I reached out to your mom. Yeah. And I'm just like, hey, just check it in, because I don't want to worry her, but I was hoping she would confide in me, and she did. You know, and I think probably, so that was the summer. And I think it took until about the spring for you to finally contact me again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she'd always check in. I'd message her here and there, just like, please tell me you're alive. Like, please just let me know you're okay.
You wouldn't leave me alone.
Because I just knew that this was possible for you. And I just wanted her to know that whenever she was ready, I was there. But this is her path. So I just wanted her to know I was always there for her. But when she was ready and it was her time, she's not alone. And she'd always reply. Sometimes it would be a couple of days and I'd get really anxious and worry about her. But she'd always be like, yeah, hanging in there. Shit sucks, but I'm alive. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Just want you to know I love you. Sometimes I would just message her like, hey, girl, I love you. What's up? And sometimes I would just get like an emoji back or whatever. And I knew she was okay. Mm-hmm. And then Jared was getting his teeth removed and I was at the hospital with him and Nichole called me. And then she was like, I need help. Like, I really, really need help. I need to go to rehab or I'm going to die. And I was like, hold on, I'm at the hospital with my husband. He's having surgery. She goes, oh no, I'll call you later. I said, fuck you will. You're going to talk to me now. The doctor came out, spoke to me. I'm good. He's in recovery. I got about an hour. What are we doing? Let's get this taken care of. And she shared some things with me. Do you want to talk about that time?
Good. Mm-hmm. So on my last run, pretty much, I was staying with some friends or, couch surfing per se. And I did one shot. Mm-hmm. And all I remember is waking up and there was throw up all over me. I had pissed my pants. And there's two people in front of me crying. I'm like, I had a bad headache.
Oh, I'm sure
I was like, what's going on here? And they're like, you were out for like quite a while. And I was so embarrassed. I was more embarrassed than anything else. Like, oh, I'm alive. No, I was embarrassed. I was like, I need clothes. I need to clean up and I need to get out of here. Mm-hmm. And I did. I left. I went back to the house real quick.
How much Narcan did they give you?
2. They did me 2 doses.
So 16 milligrams.
Yep. Came out of it. But that always resonated with me. Like, what would my son do?
After you overdosed, they gave you 16 milligrams of Narcan. You got up, got dressed. Well, got up, changed, left, and went
back to where I was staying at the time.
Okay, so where you overdosed is not where you were staying.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. And at that time, it was like, okay, is this how I want to live the rest of my life? To where somebody's got to explain to my son that I died or get help. And that battle was going on for quite a while because I continued to use after that. But every time was like, this could be the time that I die. Mm-hmm. What happens if my son finds me on the floor? Mm-hmm. What is he going to go through? And then there was another part of me that's like, this is my life. This is how I want to be forever. This is just comfortably numb. No responsibilities, no care in the world. Nothing can hurt me now. And eventually I had to muster up the courage to really look at how I was affecting everybody else. And because you and so many other people believed in me, because I looked at myself like a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. But because everybody else showed me their love and wouldn't give up on me, no matter how bad I was awful, never call back, never. But because people didn't give up on me, I had that thought, like, I really need to get out of this situation and get help.
How long between the overdose and you calling me that day? How long of a period was it?
Probably like 6 months. Because then I started doing meth too. Mm-hmm. On top of that, my first experience with meth, and it was awful. Mm-hmm. It's just a disgusting drug, but I would still do it because it was there. Mm-hmm.
More and more it was there.
And if I was going through withdrawals from the opiates, that actually helped.
Right.
So, but it wasn't something I wanted to do every day.
Right. So we have that conversation that day, and I give you who you need to call, and you call, and you were like, I'm not going if you don't take me. And I was like, I'm taking you, don't worry.
I had every excuse.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, bitch, you're going. I'm taking you. If I have to fucking carry you on my back, I'm taking you, right? Mm-hmm. And then 2-3 days before you're supposed to go, because for some reason there was such a long, because it was mid-COVID and all this shit. It wasn't like how it is now. Like now, 48 hours, I got you in, no big deal. They're coming to your door to pick you up. They're carrying your bags. Like, it's different. And I'm also further along in my career now, so it's different. But for some reason, there was such a large time in between of when you had called to when you were going. I felt like it was like 2 weeks.
3 weeks.
Okay.
It was 3 weeks.
Which is unfucking acceptable. Because 3 weeks, anything can happen. And then like 4 days before you're supposed to go, my car dies. And I was like, this is not fucking happening. I'm crying. Jared's like, well, I'll see if someone will rent us a car. Let me see if I can borrow somebody's car. Like, I'm freaking out that I'm not going to be able to take her, right? And that she's not going to go, and something's going to happen to her, and I'm never going to forgive myself because my car broke. And
I wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
I really wasn't, because that was an omen. Like, but she was
like, he can take me. It's the least he can do. And I'm like, okay. You know, at this point, I don't want to discourage any type of transportation because I want her to go. I'm trying to find people to see if I could pay them, somebody, something, anything. And I'm hitting brick walls everywhere I go. And then Jared's like, I'm going to go on Friday when I get paid. I'll go buy all the parts myself. And we were supposed to take her on Sunday. He's like, I'll work on it all Friday night, all Saturday day. He's like, we'll get it done by Saturday night. No matter what, we'll get it done. We'll take her. And I'm like, okay. And then something happened. He didn't have one of the parts. He had it like mid taken apart. And there was one part that he didn't know he needed that was broken. He couldn't get the part. I'm fucking bawling. It was a disaster. And then Dale took her.
Yeah.
He took her and she went, and she got there, and she called me, and she's like, I'm here. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. And she signed a release for her counselor, and I spoke with her counselor, and I don't know what that is on my tablecloth. And we got to speak like 2 times a week. And what facility did you go to?
Bradford Recovery Center in Pennsylvania. The best rehab I've ever been to. They have like 47 beds, so it's very intimate. When I was in there, they had a COVID outbreak.
Okay.
So I was one of 10 people, the only female that didn't get COVID. And at this point, I'm like, I can't attach myself to any man, you know, because that's always been my downfall. I'm just going to work on myself. And they addressed my mental issues, put me on medication that works for me. And I could tell a difference.
That's beautiful.
I really could tell a big difference. And they worked, we did a lot of CBT recovery.
That's cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's a new way of approaching certain mental illnesses and substance use disorder. And I am a huge supporter of it, and I think it's wonderful, and everybody should practice it in their lives, in all honesty. And, you know, so clearly we have a several year history, and to see Nichole from when I first met her and we were both in jail to now, and to watch all of that and be a part of all of that happening and going down.
Big part.
It's like, it's amazing to see how much she has grown and changed and how far she has come. And when she was in rehab and we spoke all the time, I was extremely fearful because she was still convinced that going back to him was where she was going to go and what was best for her. And it is not my job, even though I wanted to scream, run. It is not my job to tell somebody how to live their life. It is my job to support them and guide them through whatever choices and decisions they make, no matter how much I disagree with them. And this was probably the most disagreement this internal battle of me being like, why are you going back there? But I couldn't. And all I could do is support her and say, all right, if shit hits the fan, which we know it was going to, what are we going to do? What plan can we make that if something happens, let's weigh out all the things, let's put all the what ifs out, and let's see what we're going to do so we have a plan. No matter which what if it is that happens, we know where to go and what we're doing. And we did. And it took about 3 months?
3 months. Exactly. That's
And the what ifs all started to pile the fuck on. And she called me and we talked and shit was going south and she recognized it and remained, excuse me, sober that entire time.
Yes, I
and
did.
The next time I got a phone call from her, it was, I'm at my mom's house, I left. And I was like, thank you, Jesus.
Yep.
And then things just progressed from there. You got a job at the gas station.
Yeah.
You hated it.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't work. Wasn't a good fit.
No, it wasn't, because you're destined for more than that.
Yeah.
And Nichole was finally, I've always told her, girl, you could do what I do and kick ass at it. And one day she was like, yep, I'm ready, but I can't afford it. And I was like, hold on, I got this. Let me get you a scholarship real quick. Mm-hmm. So I called around to a couple peeps and asked them, when's your next virtual class? Because I have someone who's going to go and you're going to give them a scholarship. Yeah. And like 3 different people contacted me back and we're all like, this is amazing. Hold on, let me tell you the dates for this, the dates for that. And first one was no good. And then we found one and she successfully took her Recovery Coach Academy online via a scholarship and completed her class and has her certification for that. And now we are just fumbling around trying to find the right place for her. I think I might have something up my sleeve. We'll see. Where she can get her 500 hours and her 25 supervised hours, and she will be a certified recovery coach. Then she just has to sit for her test. Mm-hmm. So it has been a journey, to say the least. Oh, yeah. But I feel like you did it amazingly well. And you have gone through some shit.
Yeah.
And are still here to come out on the other side.
Absolutely.
And I am immensely proud of you. How many, what's the sober count today? What are you at?
10 months, some days, 11 months on the 22nd of this month.
So the 22nd of this month, you have 11 months.
Yes.
That is.
Yeah.
You know, for me, that is, so I've seen you at your worst.
Yeah.
And now to see you at your best is amazing. And the simple fact that I got to be a part of this journey with you is an honor. And now that I get to see you becoming so secure in your foundation of helping other people, I just know you're going to change lives because you get it and you relate on such a personal level.
Thank you.
And Nichole has always been super honest about
everything.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Again. Nichole's always been super honest about her mental health, about her addiction, about all of her other stuff in between. And that is such a powerful tool when you're moving to help people. Nichole is still currently sleeping on her mom's couch. She is in the process of feverishly searching for proper employment and an apartment. There's no apartments around here. And thank God she has her, her mom's couch. But we were just having a conversation this morning and I did not know this. She doesn't even have proper showering facilities where she is. So I was like, my God, you could have just brought your shit and came here and showered, and she's still fighting the good fight. She's still putting one foot in front of the other. So I'm going to post a small wish list for her and Max. It is pretty much, I looked at it. I asked her to give me a couple of things. Everything is pretty much for Max. Nichole was very, I don't want anything. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I was like, so how about we get you some stuff for when you get an apartment? You don't have to stress about having silverware and you don't have to stress about having coffee mugs or coffee pot or, towels or toilet paper, little things that everybody in the world needs. So I am unbelievably grateful that you took the time today to come here and do this with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I've wanted you to come for a while and do this. And then when you said it the other day, I was like, well, shit, bring your ass here. So, Nichole is, to date, I don't want to say successful because everybody's successful in their own way, but the most stably successful person that I have worked with.
Wow.
As far as extended periods of sobriety. She is amazing. And she's not just someone I work with. She's someone I consider my friend. And I'm just honored to be a part of your journey. And I know there have probably been times you wanted to punch me in the face because I was like, hey, how are you? Are you still alive? What's going on? Please respond back to me. But I saw in you more than you would allow yourself to see about yourself at the time.
I believe it was the approach that you made when I walked in to, where you were working. because you told me, you don't have to stop right now.
Mhm.
Let's just work on some goals. What do you want out of life? And, every other time that I've gone into a place for recovery, it's like, well, if you don't go to meetings, you're not in recovery. If you do this, you're not in recovery. So, then I felt like everything was against me. I couldn't recover because so many people were telling me what to do. You were like, let me just help you right where you are.
Right. And that's why harm reduction means so much to me. And that's literally the principal foundation of what harm reduction is.
Yeah.
Meeting people where they're at, but not leaving them behind. Right. So who am I to go in and tell a grown ass woman, you have to do this, that, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is how you have to. Fuck that. I know if someone came to me and was like, stop eating bananas or whatever, and that was my favorite thing, I'd be like, no, fuck you. Why would I? So I feel like that's the beauty of harm reduction and recovery coach. When you have a harm reductionist who's being a recovery coach, they mesh so well, and they just make the program work. This is your life. Mm-hmm. You're allowing me to be a part of your path. It's an honor and a privilege for me, and I need to respect that, right? Mm-hmm. So when you came to me and you were like, I'm not ready to stop using, and I'm like, okay, but what can we do to reduce the harm of your using?
Right.
Can I encourage you to get clean supplies? And at one point in time, I was giving you clean supplies. Can I please give you Narcan? Because we never know what's going to happen. Yeah. Just little things along that line. And, thank God I gave you Narcan, because we might not be sitting here right now.
That was the Narcan that saved my life. Really?
That's why these programs are so incredibly important, because literally she wouldn't be sitting here recovering, potentially helping other people save their lives if that program wasn't available. And that's what makes this so incredibly important. And thank you for coming here today.
Oh,
thank you for being so open and honest.
Yes.
You have no idea how many people this is going to help, because we don't talk enough about mental health and women's issues and things of that nature. No, I know so for sure. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And remember, guys, we recover loudly, so those behind us do not suffer in silence. Bye.
Bye.